Now, let's talk about Doctor Strange 2. I guess, why not, right? For all my complaining, the Marvel movies are probably the movies that I most consistently see in the theaters because, you know, they're an accepted social event. And, well, the movie's fine. It's, yeah, it's fine. It's not bad. It's a bit of fun. You know, it's what you'd expect it to be. It's like the McDonald's of movies. You know exactly what you're going to get, and it's just designed so it has all the right stuff in it, so your brain goes, oh, this is something. And then by the end of it, you're still hungry and also fatter. No, I don't know why I said that last. That's not part of the analogy. Whatever, it was boring anyway. But, you know, you're not going to go around raving about it, and there's no point criticizing it either. Just a serviceable product that can be enjoyed by everyone. Now, the question on everyone's minds is it actually a gory horror Sam Raimi movie? And no, of course it isn't. Now, the first thing that I noticed, was that it was just a normal Marvel movie opening. Everything was, you know, exactly what you'd expect. So I guess the second thing that I noticed was that there were cutaways in the action scenes. You know, cutaways to like a reaction shot, random extras going, oh my god. Very Sam Raimi, but I think it's gone sort of out of style now. Roland Emmerich really overused it, and maybe that put people off. But anyway, it is something that Sam Raimi always used to do, and it's a lot of fun to see it here. And then the third thing that I noticed was that this entire thing is designed to have Sam Raimi vibes. That'd be a good point to break things up with the title card. I don't know what it would say. Now, Raimi memes is a thing that sort of started in late 2017. It sort of reached its peak in late 2019. After Avengers Endgame sort of finished the MCU story up to that point, and then Spider-Man Far From Home just sort of immediately carried on as if nothing had happened. Maybe audiences were looking for something else, and at least online there was this resurgence in hype and support around the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Work on this movie and Spider-Man No Way Home started in late 2017, but both projects ended up being entirely reworked in late 2019, and weirdly they both try to ride that wave of Raimi hype, which is a crazy thing to do at the best of times. Like, the development cycle of a movie, it's not going to be relevant by the time it comes out. And then they were also waylaid by COVID, which actually, by the way, means they came out in reverse order, which absolutely makes sense if you've seen these movies. It feels like the Spider-Man Far From Home sort of needed the setup of this movie to fully work. But anyway, you have two projects here that are designed by the Marvel machine in a deliberate attempt to be like Sam Raimi. And of course, if that's your goal, what better to do than just get the man himself? He's proven that he can make studio movies. He seems like a swell guy. You know, just get him on board to do the directing required. The little amount of directing required. But now, there's this idea that everyone's bought into, that this movie is Sam Raimi's take on the MCU.
Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that is a dream come true.
Across the board, people who are critical of Marvel, people who obviously in the Marvel stands are saying that stuff. But anyway, I'm going to read a piece from a good review that I like that does this. No hate to this person, I just need to get some sort of example down so that we're working with the same language. Obviously you can find 10 million Marvel stands saying this shit online, and everyone in between, but whatever. There are moments with intriguing Raimi ideas behind them, like when a tentacled beast's eye is plucked out, when Doctor Strange possesses a corpse in another universe, when a mystical battle involves notes of music alight in the air, when a whole universe turns into a graying graveyard with only a single spark of life. Now, I did feel like there were moments in this movie that had Sam Raimi's voice behind them, but it was absolutely none of that stuff. That stuff felt designed to be like Sam Raimi. He's not a writer on this movie. They've said some stuff, you know, in the press like he helped with ideas or whatever, but he's not a writer on this movie. They don't like their director's writing unless they're the writer of the movie. You know, James Gunn added jokes and some characters and the mixtape element to the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and it was this whole kerfuffle around like the rights and the crediting and stuff. So they don't like their directors doing any writing. And even like if anything gets improvised on set, that improv is rewritten by the writer and formalized into the script. By design, they want their writers to have total control over the script. Which of course makes sense. They obviously train these writers up. They need to make sure that the story being told isn't just the best story for this movie, but it connects to everything else, and their writers have to be the ones writing these scripts, right? Now, I think the script for this movie has existed since 2017, but it's been handed around quite a lot ever since, and the guy who wrote the shooting script for this movie is called Michael Waldron, who I'm sure we're all familiar with. Now, he says that he tried to make it as Raimi as possible, and I think that shows, right? He's written these set pieces to be like something that Sam Raimi would do. You know, Doctor Strange possessing a zombie isn't Sam Raimi's idea at all. It's something that Michael Waldron came up with because he thought that would be something that would be like something that Sam Raimi would do. And then these examples, the tentacle monster fight, the possessing the corpse, the notes of music fight, the graveyard world, you know, not only are they obviously written by someone who's not Sam Raimi, but all this stuff is very extensively reliant on visual effects, some of it even fully digital. So these entire scenes are basically directed by the guys at the third floor, and that usually happens before a director's even attached to the project, right? And absolutely most of this movie is just done in the Marvel house style, especially these big set pieces, these big action scenes, because obviously that's the way that they make them. So I don't think that this is Sam Raimi's vision, and I have the receipts to prove it.
Doctor Strange 2 is less a original work of mine than it is a continuation in the Marvel pantheon of continuing stories. So my job really was not to make something outrageous and just about my sense of humor. It was really more about adapting, as a filmmaker, a storyteller, to the Marvel sensibilities.
But I did feel that there were a lot of moments that read to me as Sam Raimi. Really just like the odd shot, the canted angles, the cutaways that I mentioned, the really sort of snappy cut-in stuff. There were some optical effects where the script would seem to call for visual effects, and I think some makeup stuff where it would usually be done digitally. Snappy close-ups, great use of the dolly perspective shots, snappy direction, scrappy direction even, but there's far more Marvel house style in here than Raimi style. Over the course of the 2 hours, the stuff that feels like actual direction, you know, maybe adds up to a few minutes. Now, while we're talking about other people having creative control, that's a dog shit segue. Whatever, I want to talk about the script. I think this script is the thinnest out of all the Marvel movies. It's like, there's nothing to it. The plot is that Wanda read a book and became evil, and then at the end, she decides to stop being evil. I mean, obviously, you can make any movie sound stupid by boiling it down like that, but there's really not much else here. Doctor Strange has a character arc where he learns that he doesn't need to be in control all the time. America Chavez has a character arc where she learns to use her superpowers, and Wanda gets the character arc from WandaVision again, but this time just handled worse. It actually often hints at character work or plot, but it never does any. Then the dialogue itself is abysmal. It's crammed full of exposition, which you don't need for this movie. You know, it's just a bit of fun, but it's like every dialogue scene introduces and explains some new concept that is of no consequence whatsoever. I guess that stuff is there not for the sake of this movie, but to set up future installments, but it's bad storytelling. And then, of course, they do attempt a lot of jokes with less success than normal, I think. Every attempt at a joke here is actively embarrassing. Not to mention out of place. The stakes in this movie are higher than they've ever been. Right from the go, we're looking at a multiple universe apocalypse where their previous record was a half universe apocalypse. So to just do this sort of smirking, joking stuff feels insanely out of place here. And I guess I should mention the movie grinds to a halt in the middle to do some fan service, which I guess is being talked about as not really being fan service because they all get killed, but just because it has this vague sheen of irony to it, it doesn't excuse the plotless 20 minutes of the movie. Now, all that being said, I do think it's, you know, decent MCU movie, probably about smack bang in the middle for me, because it does have some kind of style. It does have stretches of it that are interesting, I guess. Those set pieces are designed to be, you know, it's broadly functional. It's super rigid in its adherence to structure. It's obviously designed around these key set pieces and everything happens where it should for exactly as long as it should. I think it's one of these ones that's like exactly on 2 hours. Like they absolutely just hit every fucking beat like a metronome. So, whatever, that's something that's proven to work, and it works here. But otherwise, there's not a ton to say here. You know what it's going to be, and that is what it is. It definitely is a product that's available.